I like salad. Do you like salad?
Welcome to Canadian Salad,
a fun, factual, and friendly podcast about culture and integration in Canada.
I'm one of your hosts. I'm Hostion Ho from China, currently living in unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
And I'm Andrea Macaulay, an immigrant from the United States, broadcasting you from the unceded traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations.
And you're listening to Canadian Salad.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us, listening. If this is your first time, oh my goodness, we are so thankful that you're here. If you're listening to us again, oh my goodness, thankful that you're here. It doesn't change. I'm equally as thankful.
Listening to us, we're thankful.
Yeah, we're not thankful, but you should be listening to us because today we just observed, or at least nationally, there was a day of recognition, Thanksgiving. And we know that it has a bit of unrest with this day, but we thought we would talk about Canadian pride and thankfulness and what are Canadians thankful for, because I feel, just to go with the flow, I'd say that according to statistics, Canadian pride is up, but I think we would probably say that pride is complicated when it comes to Canada and thankfulness.
Yeah, I think general pride is a very complicated thing.
It is. And national pride and... Yeah, but we'll get into a little bit. But Hostion, just in the spirit of giving thanks, what are you thankful for? And thinking about what you're thankful for, does thankfulness for these things make you proud? Or what do they evoke in you?
I mean, I think for a lot of things, if you ask me what I'm thankful for, the first thing that come up to me is I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for this healthy body that I am currently inhabited in. I'm thankful for, the privilege I have received as a man. Yeah, that's the three top things I'm thankful for now. And I am, in many ways, I am proud of the first two things.
Yeah.
The last thing I don't know about. Because privilege
I'm proud
is
of my privilege, yeah.
I didn't do anything about it. So I don't think that's something that I'm like, I have pride in being proud of, being thankful for it. I'm thankful that the convenience that, it has brought me, which, that I'm continue going to thankful for them, but I don't know about being proud of it because me having this privilege means many people do not have this privilege, right?
Sure.
There's hierarchy in it. But I'm definitely thankful for the first two things that I'm thankful for, because friends, I do work hard to, maintain and nurture my body as well.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm thankful to just free healthcare. Coming from the States, I am also thankful for safety in schools. I think sometimes that thankfulness comes in comparison to lived experiences or past, or even looking at what's happening in the news. I would definitely say I'm thankful that I am with a partner who sees me as an equal, and he doesn't see the hierarchy between us. He doesn't see himself as more important, or I'm very, very thankful and privileged in that way to be with a man that sees that. And definitely I am also privileged as a white woman for sure. And I think I would say I'm proud that I can use that privilege in spaces for making things more equitable and just. And so, I think it's interesting because in creating this episode, sometimes what we're thankful for, we are proud of, right? And I've heard this all the time. And this is what kind of sparked this conversation in light of Thanksgiving was I've heard so many people, Canadian-born people, say, I'm just thankful I'm not in America, or I'm thankful I'm not American, or the only things Canadians are proud of is that they're not American. And it's been, that only goes so far. You can be thankful for something that you're not, but then what are you thankful for on that flip side?
That's a good question,
that's where I was kind of like, I wonder what do the stats say, and what are people saying regarding thankfulness and pride in Canada? So that's kind of our episode, because I feel like thankfulness and pride can sometimes go together, but I also think there's other things that can be in relationship with those things. So we'll kind of unpack that.
Okay, let's unpack
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So we're going to look at a few things. This is kind of the section where Canada looks at itself in the mirror. So in 2024, I would say that Canada in 2024, with just a lot of the rhetoric, and this is pre-US election, right? So let's just set the stage.
Pre-Trump,
Pre-Trump, pre-election, that kind of a thing. And it was from, we're the true North, strong and free, to true North, decent enough and fine, kind of, we're okay. There was an article that came out from the Angus Reid Institute, and it was titled
Angus Reid.
Yeah, it was titled from A to meh, just this kind of, hey, we're Canadian, to meh, we're Canadian. So it was a survey on basically Canadians' pride and attachment to their country. And what they found was that actually pride has declined over the last decade. And I think a lot of that has to do with misinformation and just with, other aspects of, equality and, hey, this is wrong. You should be accountable for truth and reconciliation. So people kick against that.
Probably also Gaza.
Right? Exactly.
In Gaza.
That too. Yeah. So in 2017, about 45% of Canadians said they're very proud to be Canadian. And then in 2023, that dropped closer to 30%.
Ooh.
Yes. Since 1985, when they first started gathering data like this and asking if Canadians were thankful or proud, actually, in 1985, it was 78%. People were just wow. This is our identity. This is who we are. And that makes sense because that was just outside of when Canada was kind of making itself its own place. They had a declaration saying that we are a sovereign country, kind of a thing. But then in 2024, we went from 78% to 34%. Younger Canadians, those under age 35, were the least likely to feel, quote, very proud. And then, of course, if we kind of fast forward to 2025, Alberta, a lot of people are like, no, we're not Canadian, we're Albertans and we want to separate, kind of a thing. So plot twist.
Like the Quebecois.
Yeah. Plot twist. Bullies can make us proud and actually more thankful. Bullies, meaning Mr. Trump. So in June 2025, there was another poll that went out, and this is from Ipsos. I think I'm saying that right? Ipsos, or it might be French, like Ipsos. Or my apologies. I only speak American. English, but yeah. But this poll actually found that 40% of Canadians say that they're more likely to feel proud now than even 5 years ago, which is a 31-point jump since mid-2024.
31 point. Wow.
31%. 31% jump, which is huge. Nearly as many as 44% say they're more likely to speak positively about Canada to non-Canadians. And this is just within a short span of a year. Symbolic engagement is up to 36% more likely to display the flag and 32% more likely to attend Canada Day events. Now, if you think about even like around, it was the trucker convoy. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And the Canadian flag all of a sudden, and even like
everywhere,
the uncovering of mass graves, the Canadian flag was definitely, it was very heavy.
Becomes a symbol of
symbol of, a very dark
oppression,
colonial past, which for many it still is. And I think that is something we hold in tension with this pride. But because of the threats of tariffs and from the United States, that flipped a lot of people back over to this thankfulness and pride.
Yeah, the pride, for sure. I mean, I could definitely see that. Yeah. I think through the years of declining kind of national pride, I mean, I don't have data, obviously, but I think probably most country will have the similar trend, honestly, maybe except China or something, because, that's different, the dictatorship there. But I think in most democratic country, I would argue that probably most democratic country had this trend of declining national pride, because I think as people are more educated, as more immigrant, as your living environment getting more diverse, information getting more free flow, people learn the truth of power and authority and capitalism. People will slowly realize every country is run under, capitalism. There's always corruption, power, erosion in government, in any level of government.
Yeah.
And people will slowly realize this country that they used to be so proud of is most of the time is nothing more than just a game of the rich and the powerful.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think that's where democracy sometimes allows us that critical thinking piece, and in some ways to have that ability to actually recognize the truth about a situation and have call to action or call to accountability. I think that you're right. And I do see it kind of ebbs and flows. And it's interesting what makes people proud and thankful as opposed to what makes them not proud and thankful.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because we'll include all these links to these surveys in our show notes, but 2/3 of those who responded to this Ipsos survey, 67% of Canadians said that they need to focus on national pride right now because of these threats, right? While, and I love this, 1/3, 33% believe we should focus on Canada's colonial past instead, which I think in some ways you need both in order to respond to what's happening now, I believe. 6 in 10, 57% said that they're proud of what Canada has accomplished, while 42%, this is almost half, remain concerned about the country's foundations. Yes. They remain concerned about, hey, we were not established well at all. And what we did at the very beginning was awful and cruel and terrible. And I agree. Can we start recognizing the truth there and reconciling that so that we can go forward? It's just these different mindsets of, these polar opposite ideas. It's, you threaten us, then, we're going to be proud and we're Canadian. And I've even heard immigrants, equity deserving communities saying that they're proud to be Canadian. I've heard some people within Indigenous communities say that they're proud to be Canadian under these threats, but I don't think it's just a solo, that's just it. I'm proud and we have a lot of work to do. And I think that's what we're going to get into a little bit more.
Okay, I can't wait to get into that topic because I do think being proud, as we just alerted to that in the beginning too, like being prideful of certain things doesn't mean that they are somehow just perfect.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
We can we can be proud of the work that we are doing. Mm-hmm. We can be proud of the situation that we have that help us through from 0 to 30. Maybe it's not 100 yet, but we are 30 now. And we're happy for the 30 that we have done.
Exactly. Because I think you have to, in some ways, sounds terrible, count your blessings, but you almost just take into account what has been done, and you keep reimagining and keep working towards what can still be. Right. Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's the essence for me of being grateful, of gratefulness. Yeah. It is happy for what you have. Even though you only have 30, it's not 100, but it's still, being happy with that 30, as you said, helps you to keep moving to get that 70.
Yes. What would 70% feel like? What would 100%
100% feel like?
Exactly. So the big question is then, what are Canadians thankful for? Because like I said, we know that we've heard that I'm thankful I'm not in America, or I'm thankful I'm not American, it's okay. So they're out of Ecos Politics. They did a national survey of thankfulness, symbols, values, things that they were thankful for. And so the number one category was nature and wilderness. Most Canadians were thankful for that. We can walk in the woods without worrying about bears until we remember there are bears, kind of a thing, right? The second one was healthcare. Many Canadians are thankful, obviously we complain about wait times, but we're also deeply grateful we won't go bankrupt on a broken arm. You know what I mean? Like this idea that this is such a gift that we can have here in this country, and I alluded to that too. Number 3 was ranked the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Knowing that, and they surveyed Canadians from all over, people who are first generation, second generation, these are people who have been here, maybe newly Canadians, but also people who have been here a long time. And there is a lot to be said about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that do guarantee a lot of those things. Number 4 was peace and safety, including the military. Just knowing that, we can apologize a lot, but we barely have to run from fear or brute force, or I think the military, Canada's military, just coming from the States, it's so in the background, at least in America. And I don't know about China, but like in America, it was just like front and center. How dare you insult someone from the armed forces, that you're a patriot if you serve your country. It was just that nationalistic pride in military. And I mean, America's military is the largest
I know.
military on the face of the planet. So it's so much front and center. But when I moved to Canada, it was very much like, oh, there's a naval base near where I live? I didn't even know.
For the America though, even though they put so much emphasis on the military, but they treat their veterans probably the worst, one of the worst in the whole world.
For sure.
It's
And
so bad.
it is very bad. I would say that there are Canadian veterans who have a hard time finding a place to live as well after they
true.
serve, because it's because of all of those complex things, PTSD, and we won't get into that. But yeah, it's definitely not in Canada. We do have that peace and that sense of safety for the most part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For the most part.
For the most part. The last ranking was cultural diversity. So it did make the top 68%.
Thank God.
Said, I know. And that was such an identity piece and source of pride for Canada.
A lot of Canadians.
Probably 20 years, 25 years. But because of misinformation, because of, all of that has begun to change. So it's interesting that 83% of those surveyed of Canadians feel comfortable expressing their cultural identity while also feeling a part of Canadian society. So this kind of fluidity, right? And I've heard people say, I'm Japanese Canadian, I'm Irish Canadian, I'm Scottish Canadian. There is still...
I'm Chinese Canadian.
Chinese Canadian, yeah. People still identify with their roots in Canada, which is really beautiful. Multi-generational impact. So second-generation Canadians, 46%, showed the highest rates of cross-cultural relationships, emerging as these crucial bridges and connectors between cultural communities. So there are second-generation Canadians who are here saying, hey, if I bridge these connections with other people from other cultural backgrounds, I find a lot of pride in that. And that's something that I feel is Canadian. That is something that I am thankful for. Interestingly enough, content consumption for culturally diverse content or even education, 86% of Gen Z actively engage with international content, which is signaling this new era of global connectivity and cross-cultural appreciation. So we have younger generations who are kind of, in some ways, like we are more interconnected because of social media, because of our apps, all this stuff. And this is why when youth under the age of 35 say they're not very proud of Canada, I think it's because they're much more aware of the impact Canadian policy and governance has had on different cultures living here, but also abroad.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. And also, I think younger generations, like first, I absolutely agree this media helps them to connect with more diverse informations, but also I think the environment in general, as we alert to, like Canada is being more and more diverse, like we're way more immigrant than like 20 years ago. So I assume younger generation also is living with way more diverse like communities, right? Their classmates, the grocery store that they go to, the cashier, everyone that they interact with, definitely way more diverse. I think that will also help. That also helps this younger generation to be aware of what is outside of this kind of standard white Western culture, right? So then they also make them more acceptable to different ideas.
Yeah.
They will seek even more different, like more diverse opinions and information.
Absolutely. And that's our hope. That's the next generation, right? That's why it's important to remember where we've come from and what we have now.
I agree.
And then working towards what we can build. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in many ways it's also like I always a believer of exposure is the key for, in some sense, for like equality, for diversity. Like it's without exposure, if you imagine if you always live in a small town where everyone is white, everyone speaks the same language.
Quite a few people like that.
I know. I'm just saying, I think it's difficult for those people who live in those environments to seek out other things other than what white Western culture is, right?
Yeah,
because that's the environment determines what they prefer, what they can accept and not accept. So having diverse environment is very important.
It is
for people to appreciate what diversity actually can bring.
You're absolutely right. Hearing story or learning about cultures or just having a relationship with someone not from your same background it's huge. What I found really very encouraging from this Ipsos research too was that Canadian pride is on the rise, like with Canadian Pride on the rise, 36% responders say that they're more likely to learn about Indigenous history now than 5 years ago. So there's been an increase in people saying, hey, I'm proud. And part of that pride of Canada is learning about Indigenous history. It's learning about cultures that have existed here before even Canada became Canada, accepting and acknowledging and respecting the cultures that were here before us, because that is a part of being Canadian. I mean, coming from the States where we never talked about truth or reconciliation. We never learned why there were reserves. You know, there's no education. There's barely any land acknowledgements. And yeah, Canada has a long way to go, but there is a sense of, to be Canadian, to be proud, is to also have knowledge and action of reconciliation and knowing and accountability.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why, to kind of segue, we're grateful to be Canadian, but we're not smug about it, which I feel like, again, I know, coming from the States, I feel like we are. Americans are so smug. You know, it's just, I'm American, you know, and we're just like, I don't know, it's more of an in your face. So I think that even though there's been this uptick in national pride, I don't think it means that we're ignoring core components either, because there's still the 47% that still believe that we need to focus on our foundation and where we went wrong and what we can do better in order to do better. You know, the whole Ipsos poll reflected the tension that, you know, 57% said that they're proud of Canada's accomplishments, while 42% are still concerned about these core foundational issues of the genocide of Indigenous people, the ways in which we treated Chinese Canadians early on, and the Japanese internment camps. Like, there are some core things that Canadians
the rising
are really...
hate.
The rise in hate, yeah. Like,
to
we're
East
really...
Indians, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like if we're going to be thankful, I think it is that tension of, I'm thankful for what I have, and I'm thankful that I can continue to work towards creating a better, kinder Canada, and acknowledge reconciliation and human rights, because part of modern Canadian pride really is reconciling these really dark, terrible, shameful parts of our past, and reckoning with colonialism, and reckoning with systemic inequity and promises that haven't been fulfilled.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I think talking about, you know, the pride part of it, a thankful part of it, like truth and reconciliation is only, we said it's a holiday, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's very
So
new.
there's like a new development. Yeah, it's very new. But then there's one tiny little step, you know, towards, you know, truth and reconciliation, or at least accountability that people are taking. Oh, sorry, the action that we're taking for that direction, right? I know many people might even think that sometimes it's very symbolic, but I feel like this kind of simple matter, it sends us a message. And also this kind of holiday, I have to say, it does create, you know, at least one day a year, people will talk about what can we do.
Yeah.
Like, even in the organization that I serve a board on, VVJ, Vinfolk Jam, even our classes, we talk about, okay, at this day, is there anything we can do? I think it creates like ripple effect. So I think
It does.
I think that's the pride sometimes as a Canadian that we hold, is like, we recognize that the things that's wrong with us, and then we are trying in many ways, no matter how small, or we're always trying to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
At least that's what I like to believe.
Yeah, I think so. I was at a conference about equity and inclusion, and someone came out on the stage, said that there's 20% of the population that is going to reject equity. They don't want nothing to do with, you know, creating safe spaces for people. They don't care about multiculturalism. They don't care about anyone but themselves. And then there's the 20% that absolutely care, are working really hard to, you know, it's the extreme opposite, right? And then there's the 60% in between. There's a lot of people who they're not really in either camp, but they're not really sure, because maybe they haven't been exposed to relationships. Maybe they haven't taken time to really sit with the history of this nation. They haven't had conversations that really ask them, what is the system that we are trying to reform or trying to change? And so I feel like in so many ways, like, we still have a lot of work to do, but I think predominantly a lot of people really want to do well. They just don't know
I
how
think
to or where to go. And so sometimes they fall to the 20% that are hateful
they're not
and
doing
venomous, not doing.
Yeah.
And then they look at us who are advocating and saying, no, not this. And they're like, maybe I don't know what to do with that. And so they just stand in between. I think we have a lot of opportunity to be grateful and critical, because I think gratitude doesn't mean ignoring inequities. It just means that, you know, you are actually just more aware, and it looks a little less like cheering and more like caring. You know,
yeah. Oh, I like that.
right? Like you can cheer as much as you want, but what if we cared more? What if we actually took that pride and said, you know, I'm going to advocate more, because I am proud that I can do this. And I recognize that, you know, my cheering can be just redirected into caring and cheering for the caring of people.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to put it. I think if we see gratefulness as a way of caring rather than just cheering, I think it can help flip our narrative. If we
Yes.
say we're proud or thankful of something, let's say,
Yeah.
okay, at the beginning, remember I said I'm proud of the relationship I have.
Yeah.
If I think I change that narrative to see me being grateful, or the friendship to see it as like me being like grateful of the care of this
Yeah.
friendship that I put into it. It gives me this idea that I need to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I need to even make this friendship even better, this
Yeah.
relationship around me even better,
Yeah.
and see the faults in them or see the cracks in them. And then what can I do now to make sure that I keep being grateful of this relationship that I had, that I
Yeah.
nurtured.
Yeah.
I think that should be, yeah, thank you. I think that's a great
That's
way to
beautiful.
put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's flipping that, but it's also, you know, you can say, I'm grateful for this land that I live on, but I'm also aware of whose land it actually is. You know, like you can have both of those spaces that exist. And I think just to end, well, close to end, yeah, giving thanks without a parade. So it's, you know, it's just interesting. A lot of people have said, like, when Canada feels threatened, people circle in closer, right? We come back to this, like, elbows up and, you know, true north, strong and free, you know, and it's, what does that freedom look like? And what is the true north? And what are we strong about? You know, I think that in these statistics, I think this rebound, there can be a sense of pride, but also a sense of recentering. And maybe that's what we need in light of this holiday, or, you know, this observance of Thanksgiving, is just kind of a recentering of that care, a reframing of what our yay Canada, or yay I'm thankful that I'm not American, is I'm thankful that I can have the ability to care for other people, other Canadians. I think pride and, you know, pride born of opposition. I'm proud because I'm not, you know, American, is really weak, because it's not rooted in anything.
I agree.
It's not rooted in what could be, whether that's rooted in land acknowledgement, rooted in justice, rooted in relationship, or rooted in memory. I think all of these things are really important to root ourselves, so that when we are thankful for something, we recognize the fullness of that gratitude and the fullness of how to move forward in caring for each other, or for this nation we call Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I feel like that can be, you know, I think if everyone think of, you know, that's the kind of nationalism that I can get behind, about
Yes.
how we can be thankful of a country being, you know, being Canadian, and then recognizing, you know, the things that have been doing great and the things that we still lack of action. I
Yeah.
think that is a nationalism that I think we should all get behind.
Yeah.
Rather than, again, as you said, rather than just being like in oppositions of, oh, I'm proud that I'm not the
Yeah.
States, right?
Yeah.
I'm proud that, oh, we don't have guns and the children are not getting killed in schools, right? I think that
Yeah.
kind of opposition is like very not sustainable in many ways. Because
No.
like no offense, like for example, like no guns is just like the baseline, you know, being that
Yeah, it's like, I'm thankful I have air. Like, it is the basic, like, it's just
It
so
is.
essential.
I know. So I think being thankful for that kind of thing is just so not, it doesn't mean anything. Like, you have to dream bigger than that. We have
Yes.
to have
Oh my
bigger
gosh.
things to hope for in the future, to be thankful for.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
safety should be a guarantee. Like that is not something to be somehow in opposition of being thankful for.
Yeah, exactly. And being proud that you can create safe spaces. Like, I'm in
Yeah.
Canada and I'm proud that I can create safe gun laws I'm proud that I'm in Canada. I can create safe schools or psychological safety for people from diverse backgrounds in the workplace, or I'm, those kinds of things. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think just to kind of conclude, I think at the beginning, it's kind of like in 2024, that pride and that thankfulness to be Canadian was definitely on the down. And now that we're in the face of a threat, I feel like maybe this is an opportunity for us to redefine what that pride and what that thankfulness looks like. I think we can wave a flag, but I think if we are willing to also, my analogy isn't going to work. It's going to sound dumb. Anyway, I think being Canadian means being proud, but it also means being unsettled and not completely satisfied. And I think that's okay. I think it means questioning and caring and even demanding better. I think we can be thankful for what is, like we said, and for what might be, even if we're not fully there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my conclusion. Yeah. Do you have a conclusion?
I think being a Canadian, for me at least, in many ways, is being open to possibilities, right? We are immigrant country.
Yeah.
We are, because our open arm and sometimes open border, even though we're not that open in many ways, but like opening to many possibilities gave us that kind of beauty to create more, to create, like, to imagine a future with abundance, like because of the diversity that we have here. And I think this kind of abundance, that's something that personally I'm very grateful for. But also second is should give us this idea that, nothing is set in stone, right? This abundance means it keeps happening, it keeps changing. It's precious and it keeps changing. So when we say we're thankful for something, we should always think in the terms that it's never going to be set. It's never going to be right now. This is what we see is not permanent. It's not that we should be all just satisfied for. We should be thankful for that it's already here, but we should never be satisfied of it. We should always think what we can do better, what can we push for it further. How can we make this abundance keep going, keep growing for, a future that, that hopefully never ends. Yeah. That it's being better and more beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because there's always room to make things better if you're an artist or even just a project that you're working on. If you were building a house, I don't know that anyone steps back and they're like, oh, that wall, that was just enough. I just put up one wall. There's just always more. Yeah. Very well said. So yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Hostion. I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you too. I'm thankful for this podcast, and I'm thankful for who's listening right now as well. I'm thankful for you. Because of you, we keep doing this.
Yes, it's true. And having these conversations. So drop us a note if you want to let us know what you're thankful for and maybe your idea of Canadian thankfulness and pride. What does that look like for you? Is it unsettling? Is it waving a flag? Or is it with the past and trying and really asking what can we do better for the future? You can do that. hello@canadiansalad.ca, or you can just drop us a DM on our social media platforms, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. So we'd love to hear from you.
Or you can just tell us how thankful you are to us.
To us, exactly. We are amazing. If you are thankful for this episode, please leave a review and subscribe. Honestly, we love your feedback and we love
and a 5-star review.
Yeah, 5, not 2. Not like this 2-star person who said we were non-Canadian.
There's only one person.
It was one person. I know.
We should give this. We should give this. Send this person a message and then post our passports.
I wish I could. I know. Yeah, exactly. See, look at my mug. We're gonna end this episode with a Canadian Salad Pop quiz. Get ready, folks. Make sure your seatbelts are buckled because these questions might just totally flip you and you for a ride. Hostion, would you like to go first?
Yes, I can. This episode by Thanksgiving. So of course, for many people, Thanksgiving, it's not complete without a turkey.
Indeed.
Yes. But my question is about turkey. So in Canada, do you know where most of the turkeys are from? Which province?
Which province?
Yeah. Which province produces most of the turkeys that Canadians eat?
Oh my gosh. Province. Sorry. Province. Manitoba?
Manitoba? Final answer?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. The answer is Ontario.
Oh. Ontario, they have the most turkeys there.
Turkey. 40 0.3%.
Oh, wow.
But that's
a
the
lot.
data from 2022 is a Canadian statistic.
Oh,
Canada
true.
stats. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Stat
I see.
Canada,
I
based on
see.
2022, they have a census for agriculture.
Oh,
Based on the census, yeah, Ontario produced most of the turkeys, which is
oh,
40.3%.
okay. Wow. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ontario. I never make turkeys. I always do like a chicken.
Yeah, it's smaller. It's more
I know. It's
manageable
much
for,
smaller. Yeah.
I mean,
Family
your
of
house
three.
only has 3 people. Yeah.
Yeah. And 2
It makes
cats now.
sense.
So maybe, who knows?
Do they eat turkey?
We'll find out. We'll find out. All right. So my question to you is, Hoshin, what traditional Thanksgiving food items have origins in Indigenous cuisine?
Ooh. Oh.
If you think about the common ones like turkey, you think
Tur
potatoes.
like pumpkin pie.
That's has Indigenous cuisine? Yeah.
Yes, I would assume so. Yes.
Okay. I don't know about pumpkin pie, but I can tell you that the turkey, corn, mashed potatoes, tubers, squash, those were all the foods that we commonly eat in our indigenous, because they were eating
makes
these
sense.
way before, right? You follow the food, the seasonal foods around this time, the harvest, were these kinds of vegetables and even the meat. So if you're going to eat turkey this Thanksgiving, be thinking of indigenous people, because they were the ones who were eating this way before we just marked a holiday and did everything.
It makes sense though, because turkey is also native to North South America, to the Americas. I think it's potato as well, and so is pumpkin. That's why I guess pumpkin, because it's a native here.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I should think of turkey is native to here. So obviously,
Yes. Yeah. So we've just kind of appropriated it, which isn't okay. So don't ignore indigenous traditions and contributions this Thanksgiving, although it was yesterday. But just be mindful of those leftovers, the leftovers. If you have a leftover turkey sandwich, just be thinking, yeah, this was not Canadian. This was the original people's food. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Hoshin. Love you. And yes, join us.
Thank you for
Tuesday.
preparing the
We'll drop
episode.
a new episode. Yeah, absolutely. It was really fun. It's really fun to dig. And I'm glad that we can look at and have roots to our thankfulness, and not just in what isn't, but in what is and what can be. Yes.
What can be. I love that
Absolutely.
part.
Absolutely, girl. All right. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.
Tuesday.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hoshin Ho and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avatyan from Pixabay.
This has been a good Drinklin production.